I'm so happy to see so many of you still here in our last presentation for the day.
Yay, thank you so much. So happy to see you. All right. It is such a joy, a big joy to have you here, like I said. And thank you all for being here, the last presentation of the day. My name is Chi-Hu Lee, and I am the moderator for this panel here today. And I have an honor to work with all of them for the past several years. It has been 50 years since the falls of South Vietnam. Yet, human rights violations
and the suppressions of freedom have only worsened. Despite the face of injustice, many courageous individuals throughout the years have risen to take action. Through their tireless effort, speaking out, organizing, and advocating, they continue to keep alive the flame of the hope for free, democratic Vietnam. Who are they? And what have they done? Please join me in listening to the presentation of our 3 freedom fighters who are here with us today. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Philip Bui. Mr. Bui is a college instructor, freelance journalist, and human rights advocate who spent his early years in Vietnam and escaped Vietnam by boat. He has been a big community activist, human rights advocate for the past 50 years. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Philip Bui.
Just I want to introduce one more panelist, that is our advisor, Dr. Viet Mai. Would you please come here?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Philip Phu Bui, or in Vietnamese, it's Bui Văn Phú. And I left Vietnam on the afternoon of April 29, 1965, with my cousins' family. I left behind my parents, brother and sister. My cousins left behind their parents. So here I was in the refugee camp. The left photo was in Civic Bay, and then the right photo in Camp Pendleton. So we spent about 3 months before we were settled in Berkeley. We didn't get any news from the family for maybe 10 months. Early in 1976, and we get the first letter from home. And in the letter, what the sad news will be about people being sent to the re-education camp. My father was a low-ranking officer in the Republic of Vietnam Army, so he attended the re-education session in the local school for 3 days, and he was released. It is his certificate. I got it from him when he came to USA in 1992. But many others, like my uncle, my cousin's father, was sent to the education camp and don't know when they will be back. So we are so worried, so anxious about what happened to him. He was moved from camp to camp, and of course, as many other detainees in the education camp, they never know when they will be released. So my uncle spent 5 years. He was a lieutenant in the National Police Force. And after 2 years in USA, in 1977, I was admitted to the University of California in Berkeley, a well-known school for anti-war. When I was there, I met Miss Laura, the one on the right. She was a graduate student in Asian Studies, and she want to know more about Vietnam after 75. So I met her there, and then I began to work with her because she's a CEO for the Amnesty International, an organization in Vietnam I heard about already because there is support for the people like student leaders in Tân Mẫn, Cao Thị Quế Hương, Đoàn Thoại, they work by the South Vietnam government and put in jail and they appeal for their release. So I met Chiến and also Đoàn Thoại took him to, he was arrested and then was released and was able to go to France, and he came to the USA to be the talk about in Vietnam. He came to Berkeley. But these are the photos I took, and mostly because I did a translation. So Thảo or whoever looking at the AI, and Dr. Thoại later wrote a book, The Vietnamese Who Write, details about his treatment and the reason in Vietnam. And in 1979, if you remember, John Baez, well-known for anti-war activist, and she came to UC Berkeley many times before, and then she came again this time to talk about human rights in Vietnam. And the open letter got published on May 30th, 1979 in 5 major newspapers in the USA, Chicago Tribune, Washington Post, LA Times, and San Francisco Chronicle. That's a copy of it. And then there was the consortium or the conference about human rights in Vietnam. That's the banner right on the Sprout Plaza, the campus. That's a very well-known place. And here, that's John Baez and Laura Hironaka at the rally for the Boat People back in November 1979. Yeah. After she met with President Carter in the summer and asked him to help the Boat People, so President Carter signed the order to accept more Boat People, increase from like a couple thousand to 40,000 per month. Yeah. Here's a rally right there on the Astra Plaza. A lot of people get attention to Vietnam again, but this time more about the people we put into the education camp. So, and here I see the BSA. I was the one of the leaders in the BSA at Berkeley. I was one of the founders too. We founded in 1979, and see that the banner by the BSA at Berkeley, and there was the conference about human rights in Vietnam. John Baez on the left. Louis Liske talking about human rights in South America, and Dr. Trần Xuân Ninh, one of the regional conference just being released on Vietnam. He escaped by boat, and to the right of Professor Carl Jackson, political science Carl Jackson, and later on he did a research study on life in Vietnam after 75, especially about people being detained in the education camp. And then in 1980, it's like a bombshell in the Vietnamese community first. Nguyễn Chí Thiện, we don't heard about people in prison in North Vietnam, but Nguyễn Chí Thiện was the one, and he snuck out, he ran into the British embassy. I met him, I interviewed him later on in the USA. He rushed into the British embassy and said, I have a collection of poems here, can you take it out? We honored took it out and published it. I sent it to someone in America, and that's the first edition of his poem collection, the Echo from the Abyss. Yeah. And as Vietnamese students at Cal, we organized one night on the occasion of April 30th in 1981. We have a singing song, the prison song put into the music by Phạm Duy, and then we invited like 4 or 5 former detainees to talk about life in Vietnam, life in the education camp. Yes, I'm not student singing. I still memorize some of the songs. Khi 60 rồi mà sao không được phép rồi đá quay 72 mà sao được tới tận tự cho những cái thiết tha mà sao từ hết ra lại vào. And then that's a songbook, Repression. And also that year, this is the first monograph. It's not a book, but written by Nguyễn Long graduated from Berkeley in 1973. He got a PhD degree in political science. He came back to Vietnam and became a vice president of the Thảo University. But he was a left wing, supporting the National Liberation, but he left, and then he came and wrote a book with Harry Kendall. Harry Kendall was the coordinator for the Institute of East Asian Studies at Thảo. So this is the first English book with the detail about how life in Vietnam looked like, no freedom, you must got the permit from everything, you cannot move around, tạm trú tạm tắm, you must have some paper, or you cannot do the transport, the food allowed. You must have a permit from the police. Now, after that, then here is that's how life in Vietnam looked like, and I begin to get the information from Vietnam. The artist was arrested, Nhã Ca, her husband, Trần Dạ Từ, Duyên Anh, Hoàng Hải Thủy, Dương Nhâm Mậu. These are the authors that I believe when I was in high school, and they were put into the prison without no reason. We went down to Southern California. We had a interview with writer Võ Phiến, director Đỗ Phiến Đức, former Congresswoman Nguyễn Thị Hai, and then pharmacist Cao Lisa, the advisor for the military government before, and then the artists. So they told us another story about people who being detained in Vietnam. That's 1979. And then they focus on the church. So many priests, so many monks, Buddhist monks, and the people in Calais and the Gawa were detained. Especially some of the case here, in TCO in 1984. Because they don't want to join the Buddhist church that the government founded before there was an independent unified religion. And then it was established by the government, and the government tried to force these people to join the government-sponsored church. They refused. That's the only reason they got Repression. He still got a death sentence. And it's so surprised for all of us. I mean, other people got like 10 years, 20 years in prison, but they condemned with death sentence. So we appeal. Everywhere from the UN to the US government, France, and Europe, and they commute the sentence to die in prison. Father Nguyễn Thuận and Father Trần Như Thanh were detained to same time, and 83 Father Nguyễn Công Đoàn, they disbanded the federal center and arrested him, put him 12 years in prison, and some other people got a few years there, and these are the people there, the Buddhist monks, the Catholic priests, and then it is different because the person from the north be prosecuted by now. Due to the government, she's very afraid, she's a blatant critic of Hanoi. She used, we say, just the street language or the market language to criticize the government. Yeah. But she was not sentenced, she was detained for about 9 months in Vietnam. But she wanted to stay in Vietnam. But too much of the pressure, another trouble, finally she decided to France. Yeah. In 1992, after the 89 revolution in East Europe and the Tiananmen Square incident, 3 days from we can go, the chief police of Vietnam warning the Politburo that there will be a peaceful evolution, diễn biến hòa bình. The enemies try to use all means try to change the government or try to have a multi-party system or civil society, not monopolize from this point. Okay. And here the trial led on by Leader Nguyễn Đặng Quế, Professor Đoàn Đức Phạm, Professor Nguyễn Đặng Quế, and Đoàn Kim Liêm. Here, the newspaper came from Saigon News, Saigon Đại Phóng, about the trial. Đoàn Kim Liêm got 12 years in prison, and then Nguyễn Trì, one of his assistants, got 8 years. Đoàn Đức Phạm was brought to court in Saigon. Here, that's the right photo. Here, that's the people being arrested trial in the early 90s. This photo we got from snuck out of Vietnam. So on the left, on the left, the far right, that's Nguyễn Trì, got 8 years there. And then he was the former congressman. Basically, he's a poet, a professor. Victor is politician, he was a politician in the team. In the early 90s. And myself is the activist. I wrote articles about human rights. I wrote many articles about Vietnamese life, the kind of violation of human rights. One from local and the other from Civil News. And then I worked with Steve Danny a few months ago on this, and on the right, that is Samai, the daughter of the writer Nhaka, the poet of she was not detained, but had a lot of trouble because their parents, their parents did. And on the left, you see there, we bring up the case for the which he did. John Quốc Sĩ some years in that conference, and Dr. Nguyễn Đặng Quế, we get attention from the American public and people in voice making. Steve Danny, that's a nice good guy. I worked with him for many years on human rights. And then later on, beginning when we have the internet in Vietnam, these people were detained or arrested on trial because they used internet to disseminate information about human rights violations in Vietnam. They require these effect plan and Dr. Nguyễn Đặng have a really well-known blog. Thousands of articles following that. He was arrested for 5 years. And then later he went to the Dr. Repression, I met here. When I met this wife when she came to some day to appeal for her husband. We here is different because these people are not the nurse, they are born or they really young and it was going to happen. Yes. But now they are raising their voice like in Vietnam. For the community, always we support their fight for freedom, local newspaper, many of them in Vietnamese too. For the women league like that, and for the trial, we decided that the case we have we pay for the billboard. We pay for the Washington Post appeal right there, how we make the case of the human rights of the people. Or we demonstrate in front of the Vietnam Consulate General in San Francisco with the name of the people being imprisoned by them. We kind as a while women died, and the Baptist Congresswoman Joe Blufford, strong supporter of human rights in Vietnam. And here, when they came out, when they came out in 1995, he was welcomed by the Meta Southern, one of the big names in Amnesty International. Down there, myself on the left, and then Steve Danny at the top in Berkeley, and it's translated. Here, now using the social media like Facebook, and Mr. Kai Barton, a well-known poet, he went to school in Moscow. He's been writing a lot of poems criticizing the government. A few weeks ago, the police appealed him, saying that you cannot post it anymore on the Facebook. And he said, yeah, I agree that he doesn't want to make trouble for his children and his family. He had a line from one of the poems he said that everything is because our country is so backward, so much of a trouble because of the communism. Now, up to now, according to the 2023 State Department report, there are still 187 businesses in Vietnam. Freedom House, Vietnam only 40 for social, political, and 15 or 16 for civil liberties. These are, we are here in the Tom Mantus, human rights commission at the Congress. These are people adopted by member of Congress, and some of them get released, it's released, and then here's in prison, like Danny Black, Tam Chang, Ipuya, Egypt, and then Phật. Yeah. And we have the support from like Repression Sanchez, all the local congressmen in the area of the United States. Yeah. And they came to America like century on the map, and we have won the right, yeah, and met them. They got honored by the Vietnam Human Rights Network. Yeah. Now, under that, is my friend, Mr. Locke. Now they use the Article 331 to put people in jail by just freedom of Vietnam. So, Mr. Locke, read it. Here, still from international community trying to protect peace. Here, Mr. Ibarton wrote the poem. Okay. The other one will just sentence for using the Facebook, spent 8 years in prison. Here is back to 1979. I was right there, the right gun, keeping guys down after that, and they'll follow the hand. And then up to that released some months ago. I conversation some ago, like 2 months ago. And here's some of the book about the education camp in Vietnam. So that published by UC Berkeley and now Mr. Nguyễn was here. Nhã Cao Hồi Ký. If you want to read about how they treat the artists from 75 to 79, that's the one on the left. On the right, here's about two, more about from 79 to 2005, something like that. And here, some of the book by people, the one who have the pluralism society in Vietnam. And that's it. Thank you very much.